Hey all, Pixel here, Improbable Garage, and we're working on the custom rear bumper for the Cyberpunk Cube. The front I had a lot of plans for. The rear I really don't. I've got the remains of the seat frames as well as all that scrap bits. And I've got some other odds and ends here and there. But by and large, I am going to be winging this and sort of looking at stuff and see what looks cool and going forward from there because I don't have as solid a plan. But no matter how much I've been thinking about it, I haven't come up with one, so I figured the best way to do it is to just get into it. All right, well, that's the first chunk done. This is the only bit I had any sort of ideas on, which is I've got a bar that's kind of floating there. This sticks out pretty far, but I ran into the problem of if I replace this with a thinner steel one like I did in the front, it doesn't protect anything because it's going to be so far in. But if I build out significantly from this like I did on the front, it ends up sticking out way farther than I want. So this is sort of my compromise where the bar is, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch proud, but enough that if this is painted black and that's painted orange like I have in the front, it'll kind of work. But I've got little standoffs to get the bar up where I wanted it. This I bent a slight curve into, so it kind of follows the shape of this panel. And these are all the standoffs are just tacked in right now, but I've got four or five standoffs. And then over here, because this sits down onto this bumper bar, I stepped it down like this because I decided I liked this idea. I didn't want to do like bend, 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 bend. It was too sharp. So I just liked this idea of just a metal plate and a metal plate, and then this bar drops down. And then a little bit more here that just sticks off the end. Something I am going to have to do is there's a bolt back there that is one of the bumper bolts, and I want to be able to, I'm going to have to be able to remove this. So I am going to end up having to come in and take out a chunk here. I'm probably going to end up doing that with like maybe a step bit. I don't know. Something is going to, I'm going to come in with something and take like a half of this out and then do something there to clean that up. Weld maybe a piece of this going the other way or some, I don't know. Something that makes it look intentional and not just like I cheated and cut a little bit out. So now that I've got this in place, I can start kind of trying to figure out what I want to do around here. The only sort of vague idea I have is that I don't want this to all come up into here a lot. It might come up a little bit, but it's definitely, if anything, it's not going to come above this height. But I still want to fill this area in, so I've been thinking about not diamond plate like this, but flat aluminum, the same kind of thickness as the diamond plate, making something in here, maybe using my dimple dies and stuff, like a floating plate that sits in here that kind of fills up this area and covers over some of this, but enough, but not so thoroughly that you don't see it anymore. Maybe I'll use these old holes for the bumper retainer bracket as a place to put standoffs to hold the top of that, and then maybe the bottom will be attached to the bumper. I don't know. I have these shapes, which are really cool and interesting on these seats, but I don't, unfortunately, see an easy place for them. I was thinking of using these I was thinking of using those here, but unfortunately this is a very tall shape, and by the time I were to try and shorten it enough that it fits, because I don't want this bumper to come down too far. By the time I shorten it enough that it's nice and tight and compact in here, I would lose basically all that detail. I do have these seat backs, and this are the 1-inch bar, so I may just scavenge the curved pieces off of those to be the ends of this, but I'm not 100% sure how I want to, because I'd really like it to like curve, loop down, curve, loop back in, or something like that. And unfortunately, I have 4 bends over there. So yeah, unfortunately, I have only 4 bends over there, so that won't work. My bin O bits, this is all the leftovers from when I built the front, does not have any more useful curved 1-inch thick pieces. Those all got used up in the pieces I used for the front, I used all of. So yeah, I need to come in here and do something in this area. I also need to come across the bottom of this. Probably going to do basically this at the bottom as well, and then I may even cheat bars down to further sort of obfuscate this bar. Like maybe I'll do a thinner bar, maybe even with a little bit of a curve on it or something. Like there's a protective element there. But it's all just sort of like I said, I'm just kind of figuring this one out on the fly. I also, like, the other thing that these have is like, there's interesting sort of plates and stuff that I might be able to do, I don't know, something with. I could see, like, that's an interesting shape, but it doesn't go down far enough to be useful. But that gives me some good possibilities. This is another chunk. This other one. Oh, hey, now look at that shape. That's interesting. Alright. I didn't film it, but I extended this because I wanted a little more strength in this, because this is not a very thick wall tube. This is not like proper roll bar tube or anything. It's purely decorative. Because I wanted a little thickness in it to give it some strength. I took a piece of this thinner tube that fits inside there but loosely, slid it, expanded it so that it did fit in there tightly, drilled 2 holes in this side, slid the tube in, plug welded those, drilled 2 holes in the rest of the tube, slid that on, plug welded that, welded the front of that. I have to go back and weld the back again. This is all going to need additional welding, and then that let me add another 2.5 inches, whatever, on, and then this is now welded to that. So this is all actually pretty solid, all things considered. It's, you know, barely welded here, and it's not welded across the back or in the back of this, but it's already pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good, and it will be solid by the time I'm done. So what I'm going to need to do is bring the other bar across here, find out where it hits, and then shorten this up accordingly. Looks like I'm gonna might take more off than I initially thought, but it's still not terrible. And I'm still kind of hoping I can get super lucky and just take this sort of section out. This will probably get that same rubber diamond plate tread stuff that the front bumper did to hide all these holes and make it a little cohesive with the back, or with the front rather. So the next step would be to duplicate that on that side, but it's coming up on 10 o'clock, which is when I stop welding and grinding for the sake of my neighbors. So I think I'm going to pause here. All right, day 2. And after all of that, I looked at this today. My first thought was, nope, it's terrible, it has to come off. Because I realized, like, from this perspective, it looks good. And maybe from the side it looks good, but it's just a boring 90 degree. It doesn't do anything cool here. So my first thought was bringing this in and then doing a hoop kind of piece out, kind of like I have in the front. The other thought I had was taking this piece and kind of taking just this corner chunk of it and using that to wrap around the corner, and then maybe doing the hoop with the other stuff. And I'm not really sure, but I know I don't like this here. Either, like I said, it needs to move in and I need to do something else, or it needs to go away and I have to do something else. But as it is, it's just kind of boring from the corners. You know, it's okay from this direction, it's okay from this direction, but as a whole, it doesn't look right. And I'm not going to put all the effort into shortening it up and everything for it to just kind of look bland and weirdly unfinished. So we're going to try some other stuff. But I think I'm going to try cutting this up on that end so I don't cut this up only to then cut it up again and again and again. We're going to try working on that end. I have 2 of these. I won't be able to use the other one for the underside because it'll just be a place to collect water. So this will only be the top. I'll have to figure something else out for the lower part. But we're going to hack this up, stick it over there. Right, yeah, that didn't work. Already pulled it off because I had it here. It kind of looks okay, but the amount I had to trim away to make it fit kind of made the shape look a little awkward. And I can't, this is the wrong diameter for this pipe, and I can't hammer it over because it's, they stamped this in a big press and it won't bend any further easily. It just kind of doesn't work the way I'd hoped it would. I'd have to cut so much away for it to fit that it just loses all the effect. And it realistically should be like out here, but then it's too close to this. It just, yeah, it doesn't work the way I hoped. So that's a bummer. So I still need to figure something out here. Alright, so I've got that built over there. The joins between the end pieces and the main bars are a little awkward, but I think I might be able to do some grinding and welding. Just that. I've got the lower bar now mounted as far as a single bar will reach. And these are guesstimate spaced, but I think I'm going to be lucky enough that one more might be able to go here. Though this is crunched, so that may complicate that. Now I'm trying to figure out building out this end, because the easy thing to do would be to build exactly what I built on that end. Because I've got some more 90 degrees on that piece. The problem is that that ruins the whole idea of this thing being not actually symmetrical side to side anywhere. But I don't have an excellent and amazing alternate idea. So I'm back to sort of staring at everything. Oh, and I have this thing. This is like the heat shield off of a semi-truck's exhaust stack. I found this, like half of it, on the side of the road one day. So I kind of stashed that because I thought it might be useful. I was thinking of doing like an underpiece with the bumper with it, but now I'm not so sure. And I was thinking maybe I can do that here, but there's no good sort of way to cap it, top or bottom. The bottom I'm less worried about, but top there's no good top piece to go in. Some of my design on the front was inspired by the things I was going to add, and I don't have rear bumper things in the same way. Like, I've got a bin of odds and ends and stuff, but nothing that really speaks to me for using on this. The only thought I'm really having is to just leave this on here for the moment, bring this bar over to it, and then wait for a better idea over here. Like weld all this, the rest of this up, get that all done and stable with the intent of I'm going to cut this end off and rebuild it when I have a better idea. Because one of the thoughts I've been having is, yeah, so I have this little toolbox, but it's too tall. But if I can get a similar toolbox with, you know, a stamping on the underside and integrate that in some way over here, like it's again a sensor like the front has, that might be interesting. But yeah, like I said, I don't really have a brilliant idea for the side, so I think what I might do is just bring the bar over, leave this so that there's something there, and then plan on rebuilding this corner when I come up with a better idea. Because another idea I had was I have two of these things. So my thought was something like, you know, this, 1 and 1, and then a little hoop of metal or something at the end. But I'm not sure I like that either, so I think my best bet is to just build something to, because if I bring this bar over, I can always just slice through both of them and build an end cap, or I can always take out an entire chunk of bar. One of the things I've been wanting to do is find a motorcycle muffler and like put a 90-degree on this, run it over here, and then have a motorcycle muffler that's got a tip that turns slightly so it can kind of dump out, at which point I would probably take out the center section of bar here, but I haven't been able to locate one. And now there's the undercarriage lights there, that might be a problem. So yeah, I think I'm gonna bring the bar over to complete this and call that done for the moment. I'm not going to bother to film that. I will catch you up. So I've got that done, and I'm on to further detailing. All right, so I've got that lower bar brought all the way over, one more support, and then I actually just tacked this on the end because that gives it a little bit more interest there until I decide what I'm doing there for good. So I've done a little bit of finish welding, what I can easily reach. But at this point, I need to yank it off and weld from all the awkward angles so that I can slap some paint on it. I did drill this out just awkwardly with a step bit because I didn't have anything better to do it with. So for now, it's just going to stay like that. Eventually, I want to do something cleaner, but for now, I'm going to live with it. But yeah, so now what needs to happen is this needs to come off, and I need to get all the other angles welded up. I need to clean up this here, which hopefully will involve hammering this down a little bit, and probably have to put in a little filler piece or something to just make that a cleaner bit there without a big ugly edge. And then I can slap some paint on this and call it temporarily done. All right, and I've got this all now fully welded out. I just tacked this here because I didn't want a full bead there, and I actually kind of tried to make those disappear as much as possible. This up here I pushed down. I tried it with a hammer. It ended up working better using the big C-clamps and just kind of forcing it down. I did have to do a little hammering in this corner on a screwdriver just because this piece was actually too far out. So I had to put enough of a bend in it to get this down enough to kind of still hide it. But this is all now, you know, far enough behind this that it really helps to hide that and make it look right. I added a bar at the end over here, the vertical one, to just clean that up a little bit. I like that look better. So this is now done being welded for the right now, till I, you know, come up with another idea or figure out what I'm adding to it and have to build mounts for that or whatever. So this is going to get wiped down with lacquer thinner or Prepsol or something, and then get some primer sprayed on it and some top coat. All right, and one painted bumper. I got impatient, unfortunately, peeling it off, and the paint hadn't fully cured, so that's going to be an issue because I'm out of this yellow or this orange. So for now, that's going to stay. I may fix it later, I may not. I actually really loved this effect, which was completely incidental. I wish I'd noticed it earlier because I would have done it a little more intentionally over here. But overall, totally fine. Exactly what I wanted. Orange, black. It's not perfect, but again, this is not the final iteration of the bumper. So this is going to get bolted up, and then the build portion of this will be completely done. And there we are. One custom built rear bumper. That looks better now that it's all one color. Still don't like it that much, but it will definitely do for now. A lot of the orange actually peeled off as I was futzing with it. So apparently both my primer coat didn't go on very well because it peeled right back down to the steel. And I got a little impatient with the orange, but it's will do for now. And that looks so much better than just the bare bumper bar. There, looks very intentional. So yeah, I am happy with that. I now need to detail and rebuild that up to make it truly interesting, and I still need to fill this sort of dead space here, and the same thing on the other side. So that's going to be the next stage.